Welcome, everyone, of our weekly learning of inspiring and bringing more light into the world through Torah and sharing life stories. We always like to start off with giving because how we give, that's how Hashem's going to give to us. So let's all give generously. So Hashem can and will give us generously. So I'm going to put a couple of coins in the tzedakah box. Please join me from home. So we're doing this class in merit for the merit for the complete refuah shalema and for the protection of all the IDF in Israel, and we should see miracles and have all of our loved ones back with us immediately from captivity. We also do this in merit of the complete refuah shalema for Rachel Bas Chaya Yuta, Chana Yenta Rivka Bas Shendel, Razel Bas Hadas, Rafal Chaimer Ben Simachasha, Chana Leah Sarabat Pesha Gittel, Bela Bas Chaya, Yosef Ben Dvoraleah, and Yosef Yitzchak Ben Bella. And everyone that needs, I'm including everyone in these the names. And I do this class weekly in memory of my dear grandmother Rivka Dina Bas Yosef Yehuda. I hope you're proud. And in memory of my dear great uncle who recently passed away, Chaim Dober Ben Bitzalel Wolshansky, who saved many Jews in the Soviet Union, helped them get out, worked alongside with Mendel Futterfass. And his neshama should have the highest aliyah. Saving a life is saving a world, and he saved many. And Hashem should give him everything that he needs. Tonight, I'm so excited. We're also going to pray for IDF, someone in the IDF who is literally a tzaddik. The Rebbe referred to all the chayalim as tzaddikim. And he said, you don't have to go to a tzaddik's caver because they are tzaddikim. You can go and get a blessing from them. So let's all bless them and pray with them together. I hope we're all continuing to say psalms from home to Hillel all day and night whenever we can. For Yisrael Ephraim Ben Chayat Tzivya, his mother spoke on our class. He is very brave and he has Hashem's protection, and Torah protects. And he is in Gaza right now as we speak, doing Hashem's holy mission of getting rid of darkness. And tonight is Hanukkah. And it is literally exactly how it's meant to be. And we are going to celebrate the light very soon. Also, for someone in captivity, we have a name, Alon Ben Dikla, and that's for everyone, all the hostages. They should all come home immediately. We're praying, and I hope by tonight we're going to hear just revealed good news, and we're going to just celebrate together on Hanukkah with Mashiach. Tonight, I'm so excited to have with us a very special speaker who is from Florida. Her name is Margie Szerer, and she is going to share with us her story of finding her light. And everyone has a story, but she has a fascinating story. She is originally from Colombia, and she is going to tell it to us. So thank you for being here with us and sharing your light with us.
Hi, Haya, and everybody else. I know this is a pre-recorded class, but by the time you're listening to us, I want to say hello and thank Haya for inviting me. I am a fan of hers. I listen to her classes, and I always get very inspired by all the women that come and share their stories. So I feel very honored and very special that you thought about me and you put me in that category, Haya. So I'll start with my story. I was born in Colombia, actually in Medellin, in the famous Medellin, where everybody thinks about Pablo Escobar. I was born in 1969, and I lived there till I was 5 years old. Then moved to Bogota, which is the capital city of Colombia. And I had a fairly beautiful childhood. Beautiful home. I grew up in a loving home. My parents were great examples of what Shalom Bait is and what is helping people and being kind to others. So although I didn't grow up in a religious, let's say, Torah observant life, we did keep a lot of mitzvahs that we didn't even know that they were mitzvahs. But it was the traditions of the home. My father came from a Syrian home from Syria, the Sassoon family, very steeped in traditions. And my mother came from, my grandparents came from Poland and Hungary. Hungary, I'm sorry, from Ukraine. And so we had a lot of good values, good Jewish values. And also growing up in Colombia, the Jew looked very different from the rest of the people. And so we were always signaled. People now are going crazy with the anti-Semitism, but I grew with this my whole life. It's not something new to me. We grew up coming to shul and seeing swastikas in the walls. And so we grew up with this. And I went to a non-Jewish school. It was an American school. It's still there. I loved my school, CNG, Colegio Nueva Granada. It is, I hope it's still a very proud American school. And we grew up with kids from everywhere, like all the kids that came from the embassies in Bogota, they ended up in this school. So I grew up with a lot of, let's call it very open-minded, meeting tons of people from different places. But anyways, the Jewish community always kept close. We have it's a small community. And we have a club, a Jewish club where people go there because they didn't accept us in the non-Jewish clubs. If you were a Jew, you couldn't be go there. So we made our own club. And so we always stick with the Jewish community. There was rarely any intermarriage. But we grew up very, very safe in our heads, because Colombia is not a safe place, but we did grow up in a cocoon of safety, in the sense that the community was very healthy-minded community, and we grew up very well-grounded. So growing forward, I got married very young, 1987. I was 18 years old. And I remember telling my husband before we got married that I wanted to have a home where the kids would feel like they live in a Jewish home. And so I wanted to commit myself to lighting Shabbat candles, and I would love if he would put on tefillin every day. And surprisingly, he didn't say no. He said, yeah, it's a good idea. And we went on our honeymoon, very interestingly, and everywhere we went to Europe. In those days, we used to go off for a month on a honeymoon. No cell phones, no computers, no nothing. We would disappear for a month, maybe call our parents once a week from a collect call somewhere to tell them we're fine. And everywhere we went, they would like make us get out of the plane, and he had to open his bag and he had to show the tefillin. Colombians, you know, we were branded Colombians. You have to get out, show what is in there, and he had to open the box and explain to them it's the tefillin. So it was a mitzvah that he took upon himself, but it was a type of a nuisance of a mitzvah a little bit. But nevertheless, he stuck with the mitzvah of tefillin, and I stuck with the mitzvah of Shabbat candles. So this is what we did. We felt very Jewish, very proud, very, loving Israel. This is how we grew up. And then in I think it must have been 1991, because my oldest daughter was already a year old. We were going to Miami from Venezuela. We had gone to Venezuela for a business trip, and we were flying from Venezuela to Miami. And the plane was a Venezuelan airline, Avenza. I still remember the name. I don't know if it exists still. And half an hour into the plane ride, suddenly I feel very dizzy. And I look up and I really feel like the plane is going down. It's going down. So I turn to my husband and says, I think this thing is falling down. And he looks at me, he says, yes, it's falling down. And at that moment, like everybody in the plane started like getting very nervous. The guy next to us was a very famous Venezuelan composer, and he was like having a heart attack. And so we were trying to calm him up. And my sister was getting married like 15 days later. And the only thing I could think about was my parents. How were they gonna do it? Like, they're gonna be sitting Shiva for their daughter. They lose a daughter and a son-in-law. They're now stuck with a baby. And on top of it, they have to get up from the Shiva and they have to go and marry their other daughter. And the only thing I could think about was, how are they gonna do this? How are they gonna do this? I couldn't think how they were going to be able to do this. And the only thing that came to my head at that moment was, Hashem, please, please don't do this to my parents. Please don't do this to my parents. I promise you that if you don't kill me today, I'm never going to eat another shrimp in my whole life. This is what I promised. The shrimp, that was the only thing that came up to my head, because in those days, we were very ignorant. We didn't know a lot about kashrut and what's kosher, what's not kosher. We really grew up not knowing anything. And I know that Jews don't eat shrimp. And I love shrimp. So I said, this is what came to my head. And suddenly a miracle happened and the plane came back. And then suddenly the pilot said, ladies and gentlemen, we have a problem. We have to go back to Caracas, and we're going back. So half an hour back. And when we land, we get out of the plane, and I'm all shaky. And I tell my husband, I made a promise. And he says, you made a promise? I says, I made a promise. That's why we're alive. He says, what did you promise? I said, I promise I'm never eating a shrimp again in my life. You have to understand, for us, this was a very big thing. There was a great restaurant. We loved going there. And he goes like, no, how could you promise that? And I said, but I had to give up something. So he said, and I said to him, so what's your problem? The one that's not going to eat them is me. You can eat them. I made the promise. So, okay. So like a month later, he tells me, you know what? I'm also not going to eat any more shrimp. So why is this story relevant? Is because I see, like with Hanukkah, that we light every day one extra light in the menorah. And in the house of Hillel, they taught us that every day you increase the light, one more light. I find that when you do one mitzvah, when you do one little thing that connects you to Hashem, the Hashem brings you many more other things that are going to help you get to Him. And so this is what I did. It was many years before the transformation, let's call it. But I think that was a very big moment, turning point in my life. Then my husband started learning Torah. We always loved learning Torah. We used to go to classes, the Shalom Bait classes with Rabbi Yoshua Rosenfeld, who is the Shlucha in Colombia. He came when I was actually 12 years old to Colombia. And he has always been a very big influence in our lives. And then my husband one day said, you know what? I would like to buy kosher meat in the home. And so I said, okay. But the kosher meat in Colombia in those days was really, you couldn't eat it. You would make meatballs and they would bounce. And the girls would stop eating meat. And it was a whole issue. It was very hard to cook. And it was really not nice meat to eat. And you had the German butcher who had all this clean, beautiful meat. And it was a very big step. Like, it was not like in America that you have this wonderful meat. And so, okay, I started buying this kosher meat and the kosher chicken and bringing them to the house. And they came with all the feathers and you had to clean them up. And it was not like today. And then his oldest brother passed away in a very freaky accident. This is 1994. Actually, it was a month before the Rebbe passed away, I remember. And this was really turned our lives around. And this was a moment in my life where it was a very big moment of where's God? And I had this question with me, where's God? Like, where is He? Like, how could God allow something like this to happen? And I always did Shema Israel before going to sleep. My mother always instilled this in us. And that was about the connection I had with Hashem, but it was not like really there in my head 24 hours a day. And I remember I used to go to this bioenergetic doctor in those days. And she said to me, okay, can you show me in your body, non-Jewish woman, can you show me in your body where you feel God? And I said, I don't feel Him. I don't know where He is. I have no idea. I don't even know it was like an existential moment in my life. And that was the beginning of the search. And so years went by also. Years went by and we stopped eating this kosher meat. I stopped bringing kosher meat to the house. My husband was for 2 years in a very bad state, and he could care less whatever I did. We were in a, let's say, in a moment of tension with Hashem. And then in 1998, we decided to move the family to Florida. The times in Colombia, living there became impossible. There were kidnapping people everywhere they went. They started kidnapping little kids. They started taking women out of the wherever they were, like you were in your car, and the guerrilla would come with their computers and ask your name. And if you were in their system, they would put you in a bus and they would take you. And we said, like, this is it. This is not a place to bring up a family. It's time to move forward. We have to leave. And it took us 3 years to leave the country. And when we came here to Florida in 1998, my husband was able to build a business here, which was something that was unbelievable because most of the men were traveling, going and coming, going and coming, going and coming. It was a very hard time. And when we were able to move, I said to myself, okay, I don't have an excuse anymore. Like, I have to buy kosher meat for my home. There's no excuse anymore. Like, the meat here is very good. And I had the dilemma also, if I was gonna put my kids in the Jewish day school, or I was gonna put them in an American school, just like they were in Colombia, which was like a sister school. It was very easy. You just transferred, and that was it. And I came from a very, you have to imagine, very open-minded type of place. So for me to put them in a Jewish school was really also a test. And so my husband moved before me, 6 months before me, and he calls me on a weekday in January, and he says, Margie, we have to decide which school the girls are gonna go to because it's time to inscribe them. And what do you want? And I said, okay, go and look at the 2 schools and tell me what you see. So he tells me, okay, I went to the Jewish school. All the girls are wearing skirts. All the boys have a kippah in their head. They have seats. They eat kosher food. They learn half a day in Judaica studies. They have a day they learn the secular studies. And it looks like nice people. I like it. It feels home. So he went to the American school. He says, it's very American. You don't have Jewish nothing here. Everybody looks the same. Not like Colombia, that you're the Jew. Here, everybody's the same. And you choose, tell me what you want. I can pay both schools to reserve the spaces. And when you come, you decide which one you want. So at one moment, I had this gut feeling. I had never felt this in my life. I think I've never felt it again. But it was such a gut feeling in the middle of my gut. And I said to him, put them in the Jewish school. Don't ask me, put them in the Jewish school. And so they went to the Jewish school. And when we came and they went to this Jewish school, I thought the kids in the Jewish school were all from, because they were all with the skirts and the tzitzits and so I said, okay, for sure I have to make my home kosher, because you want the kids to be in the environment that they're in the school, and the friends are gonna come to my home. I want them to be able to feel comfortable here. And also I felt such a relief and such a depth of gratitude. This is what I felt now, gratitude to God that I was able to leave Colombia, and he had given us an opportunity in this country. So many years ago, it was like unbelievable to be here, and it still is an incredible country. And I felt this very, very big depth towards Hashem. And I said, okay, I'm gonna make my home kosher. So we bought this new home, and I took advantage that everything was new. I called Rabbi Shai Amar from Golden Beach. He was the only rabbi I knew in Miami. And he came. I am sorry. Sorry. And he came, and he took all my china, all my pots. It was so overwhelming. And what was gonna be boiled was gonna be boiled. What was gonna be put into the tub is what gonna be put into the tub. What was gonna be put away to see what I was gonna do with it for a year. which was my very fine china. He didn't tell me to throw it away or to give it away. He told me, just put it away for a year and we'll see. And it took like 24 hours, this whole process. And in Colombia, they give you a lot of silverware for your weddings. In my time, that was the only thing they could give you. There was nothing else to buy. And I had tons and tons and tons of silverware. And so he boiled everything. He took it to the mikvah. He brought it back. By the time he brought it back, it was already midnight. So I left it in the boxes. And the next day I open up, all this silverware is all rusty, green, yellow, red. And I'm like, oh no. And I'm like, what happened here? And I call my mom crying. I say, I think I ruined the silverware. She says, don't worry, go and get an anti-tarnish and just polish it. It's gonna be fine. It took me like a week to get rid of all this tarnish. And I tell you, like, really the whole process of teshuvah has been so intense and so real, because what I felt really when I was cleaning this silverware was that I was really cleaning my neshama. I was really getting rid of all that dusty tarnish that had adhered to my neshama. And at a time later, I read a beautiful story of these ladies that really resonated so much with me, that they learned Mishlei. And in one of the Mishlei, it says that Hashem is like a silversmith, that I don't remember exact wording, but it says like he takes the silver in his hand and he puts it in the fire, and he takes it out of the fire, and he puts it in the fire, and he takes it out of the fire. And they couldn't understand what this meant. And one of the ladies said to the other women, said to them, let me go to my silversmith and see how he works with the silverware, and so we can understand this passage. And she sat there with him, and he was taking the silver, putting it in the fire, out of the fire, in the fire, out of the fire. And at a moment she says, can't you just leave it there for a while and just go and have a coffee? And he says, no, why? It will get ruined. And so she asked him, how do you know when this silverware is ready? And he answered, when I can see myself in it. And so really, the whole process of teshuvah is when you can see yourself in Hashem, you know, when you can see that you're just a reflection of God in this world. And from everything I've learned in my life, or I think I've learned, but what I get, and really, is that as Jews, we come here to be a reflection of Hashem. We come to he made us in his image. This is what it means. That when a Jew walks down the street, the way the Jew dresses, the way the Jew treats people, the way the Jew behaves in thought, speech, and action, everything has to be according to Halacha, to Jewish law, and everything has to be done in a way in which you are a reflection of God. And this is what it means to keep mitzvot, and this is what it means to learn Torah, is that you come to be a reflection of Hashem. And so for me, it was very meaningful, this whole episode of the silverware, because really, I don't know, every step I've taken in my life, it really has given me such a profundity of who I really am. And Teshuvah really has taken me to a place of knowing myself. You know, you're only you when you live with your godly neshama. If not, you're just like a masquerade of something else. But the true essence, which is that part of us that is transcendent, that is infinite, that is the real us, it only shines through when you are connected to your source. If you're not connected to your source, it can't shine. Doesn't mean you don't have it. It's there. You have it within you, but it's tarnished like the silverware. So to get rid of the tarnish really takes a work. It's a lifetime of a job. It's not comes just like that. But what I mean is, it doesn't have to be overwhelming, and it doesn't have to be something that creates stress or it creates anxiety on a person. It has to create joy. Because if when you're doing things for Hashem, you're not feeling the joy, then you're not doing for Hashem. You're doing for another reason. It's not for God. Because when you're doing for Hashem, that's when you really connect to that spark, and then everything is perfect in life. There's nothing bothers you. It's like wearing that perfect shoe that you don't feel. That when you're walking, you feel you're walking on the clouds. And this is what a real connection to Hashem feels. So, okay, so the house became kosher. And then a year later, my husband one day wakes up, Lech Lecha, and on a Wednesday, and he says to me, I need to become Shomer Shabbat. So I look at him and I say, oh, I wasn't ready for that. So he says, I don't expect you to become Shomer Shabbat. We were always very respectful in our growth. Both of us were growth-minded, but each one was doing, I came here, then he came here, then I came here, then he came here. Like we weren't together. We were together, but each one was sometimes one was higher and the other one was lower. So he says to me on a Wednesday, this was right after September 11. Yes, September 11. And he says to me, that was also a turning point in our lives. And he said to me, I need to become Shomer Shabbat. I don't know why. Don't ask me why. I have no idea why. I just need to do it. And I come from a Sephardic home with a Sephardic father where my mother always catered to him. So I had no problem helping him with becoming Shomer Shabbat. I called Rabbi Shai Amar again and said, what do I have to do? So he says to me, okay, he taught me the oven, the crock pot, the lights. And I said to him, okay, I'm not ready to become Shomer Shabbat, but I'll be with you. I'll help you. And so I already had a daughter that was 12 years old by now. The other one was 9 and a 6-year-old. And so the girls, I said to them, okay, Shabbat dinner is Shabbat dinner. We eat with your father, and Shabbat lunch is Shabbat lunch, and you eat with your father. And then afterwards, you can do whatever you want, but we're not going to leave him alone. And I kept the food the way the Rabbi Amar taught me. The funny thing is that my daughter, my oldest daughter, had just done her bat mitzvah the month before with Rabbi Shai Amar. And when we did the bat mitzvah, he taught her everything. We had a kids party, right? And so I asked him, what religious thing do we do in a bat mitzvah? Like, what are we going to do? So he says, you know what? It would be nice to do a Havdalah service, because it's after Shabbat. So I looked at him and says, what's Havdalah? I had no idea what Havdalah was. I have never heard of it. So it's okay, it's the separation between the sacred and the weekday. And so after Shabbat, we do the ceremony with the candle and the besamim and the wine. And I think it would be very nice. So my husband, this is a month before, he asked me, what are we going to do for the bat mitzvah? I says, a Havdalah service. Says, what's Havdalah? He had no idea. So it's incredible how the neshama, when you are going up the ladder a little bit every day, the neshama wakes up. It becomes sensitive to spirituality. So he needed to become Shomer Shabbat. He had no idea what Havdalah was a month before. It's incredible how one mitzvah activates the soul. And so he became Shomer Shabbat. And like 8 months later, I see him. He looks so relaxed. He's so happy on Saturdays. He's relaxing, going to shul, eating, having a nap. He looks like he's having the best time of his life. And I'm this carpool mom, this soccer mom, taking my kids here, taking my kids there, never stopping. I'm in a treadmill that's going on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I'm looking at him and says, like, am I stupid or what? What's wrong with me? I'm crazy. So I said to my kids, I'm also becoming Shomer Shabbat. This is it. I'm becoming Shomer Shabbat. I'm not going to drive any more Saturdays. I'm staying home with your dad. And so the little one, the 6-year-old, started with us. The 2 other ones was a little harder. They were teenagers already. So I said to them, you know what? If you want to go to your Hebraica thing and this and that, you have to see who's going to take you. I cannot ask anybody to take you. I cannot make other Jews do things for me. You are free to do whatever you want, but lunch here, dinner here, and the rest, you find your way. And so this is how it happened. And eventually, all my kids today are Shomer Shabbat. They are all frum. They all wear shaitels. Their kids wear tzitzits and kippas. And this is how it became. So then my husband started looking very, very like a rabbi with a beard and the kippah, and I still wore my my tank tops and my jeans. And one day I'm looking at him and I'm looking at myself and saying, we're not looking the same. This doesn't go, like the song of the Sesame Street. One of these things doesn't look like the others. And I started feeling like I don't look like we're not looking together, Maybe I'm Shomer Shabbat, I'm kosher, but we don't look the same. And so I decided to start wearing sleeves. I threw away my tank tops, and every day I would wear more skirts to the Shabbat, and and so slowly I had less pants in my closet and more skirts, and one day I had no more pants, and that's the way it just was organic, and it morphed. It came to a point where I became more comfortable wearing sneeze clothes, and already the jeans were too tight for me. Like I couldn't even breathe. And so the mikvah was also another story, very funny. When we made the home kosher, this is many years before, I had a housekeeper that I had brought with me from Colombia, Mary, and I told her Pesach was coming, and I said to her, Mary, I'm too overwhelmed with this thing of the kashrut. Let's do Pesach. We're gonna clean, but I'm gonna use the same pots and pans and the same dishes, and I'm not gonna change anything. I'm overwhelmed. And like a day before Pesach, she comes up to me and she says, Mrs. Szerer, I'm very uncomfortable. This is not a Jew. I says, what's wrong, Mary? He says, I'm very uncomfortable. What's wrong with you? He says, it's not okay. She tells me, it's not okay that you made this house kosher, and Pesach is such an important holiday, and you're not keeping it the way it should be kosher. You need to buy pots and pans, and you need to go and buy a new china for Pesach. I'll go with you, I'll help you. So we went, we bought, we toiveled everything. Thank God I had in my garden, I had a canal, so I used to toivel everything in the canal. It was easy. And but this was my housekeeper. And so after Pesach, I'm telling the story to your aunt, Hani Lipsker, right? And I'm telling Hani, she says to me, how was your Pesach? And I said, oh, you don't know how my Pesach was. So I told her the story of the pots and the pans and the housekeeper a day before. So she says, okay, have you ever gone to the mikvah? And I said to her, no, I'm not doing that yet. And she says, you need to go to the mikvah. That's a very important mitzvah. And I'm like, still overwhelmed, like you can imagine. And she's telling me I have to go to the mikvah. So, okay, then I meet Rabbi Shai Amar, and he says to me, how was Pesach? And I tell him, says, have you been to the mikvah? And I says, huh? This is the second person that tells me if I've been to the mikvah. And then someone else somewhere asked me also, and I say, okay, 3 people, this is it. I have to start going to the mikvah. And that's how I started going to the mikvah. And so fast forward, the snoot, and then the wig, the crown on the head. I told my husband, like, this is never gonna happen. I don't think it's gonna happen. It's not gonna happen in my lifetime. I think I'm gonna have to come back for this, but I'm not gonna do this. I used to see these wigs and I used to get allergic to them and itchy, and like I said to him, I don't think I'll ever do this. So I said to me, he was always very understanding, and he always said, okay, you're not ready, it's okay, you don't have to do it for me, you have to do it because of Hashem, and if you're not ready for that, don't do it. So we went to Israel. It was 2006. It was the year after Gush Katif. And we're in Israel, and we're in Banyas, which is it's a beautiful reserve next to Lebanon. And we are there in Banyas, and suddenly we start hearing rockets. And my kids went crazy, and everybody was crazy in this place running. And then there was a reservist there, and he said to us, don't worry, a war just broke out with Lebanon. Don't worry, because if you hear the rockets going, whoo, boom, then they're falling here. But if you hear boom, 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 they're falling in Lebanon. So they're in Lebanon. So we were like, okay, what are we gonna do here? What should we do? We had tours to go somewhere else afterwards, whatever. So we got in the car. Remember, this is not the times of the WhatsApp and the instant news in your phone. It was not so easy. And so we decided to go back to the hotel, which we were staying in Tiberias. And when we come to the hotel, we see all these army tanks lined up in the hotel, and they're filling them with food, and the soldiers are going to Lebanon. There's a war, like out of nowhere, a war. Like, where did this come from? And so we go to listen to CNN and whatever, the news that we could understand. And there's not a lot of news going on. So I call my friend in Tel Aviv, and I ask her, Anita, we're in the north. This is what's going on here. Can you tell me what's going on? She says, Margie, there's a war. A war just started. You should come back to Jerusalem. Get out of there. Like, you're in the middle of the war. And I'm like, really? We were gonna go to Tzfat for Shabbat. No, cancel. Don't go to Tzfat. And so we went back to Jerusalem. It was such an eerie experience. I've been through a few wars there. This one was really tough. And the people were so down. The guy in the hotel that sold the Mihal Nigrim things, he was so depressed because they had just come out of the intifadas, and the Israel was just starting again to have tourism, and they were so down. And he was like waiting for himself to be called to go to the war. And we went back to Jerusalem. We spent Shabbat in Jerusalem. And when I was at the Kotel on that Shabbat, it was really, the sky was red, like I've never seen it, red. The stones of the Kotel were crying, they were wet. Like you touched them, they were like sweating, like crying. People were crying. These Arabs were throwing fireworks, and every time they throw a firework, it's because someone died of our side. And it was such a horrible, hard moment. And at that moment, me already, how I work, my head works. Okay, what can I give Hashem? What can I give Hashem? So I went to that wall and I put my head there and I said, Hashem, please, I didn't want to do this, but I think there's no other option. I'm going to cover my head. I'm going to do this mitzvah for the Jewish people. I'm going to do it for them. That you should keep us safe, and the soldiers should be safe. And this is how it started. And when I came back to Miami after a few days that we could come back, I called my Rebbe, and I called her and I says, I want to cover my head. And she said to me, are you sure you want to cover your head? It's not only cover your head. There's a lot of things that come with it. Like, it's a responsibility. You're sure? I said, I'm sure. So in those days, it wasn't like you get a shaitel nowadays that it's so easy and so accessible. It wasn't so easy. In Miami, there weren't many shaitel mahars. Her daughter was a shaitel mahar. She got me these shaitels, and they all looked like my hair. It was unbelievable. Hashem was kind to me. And I covered my head. She took me to the lady, and she cut it, and she put it nice. And I walked out of the place, and the Rebbe tells me, okay, you are gonna need to get used to this. Wear it at home, wear it on Shabbat, little by little, you'll start getting in. The minute I put it on, I never took it off, because that's my personality. It's all way in. And that night, I'm looking at the shaitel, and I'm like looking at it, and then I see lice on the shaitel. And I'm like, lice in the shaitel? How can there be lice on the shaitel? Like, it was 11 o'clock at night. And I put it in a Ziploc, and I start all itching, and I start crying. And I told my husband, Hashem didn't want my mitzvah. He didn't accept my mitzvah. And he's like, why would you say that? That's crazy. He says, no, because there's lice in the shaitel. I went to sleep crying. Like, you can't imagine how I cried. And so the next day I'm waiting that it's 8 o'clock in the morning to call the Rebbe and tell her about the lice in the shaitel. In those days, the shaitels the hair came mostly from India. Nowadays, this is not accepted by the rabbis because of idol worship. So they don't accept this hair. But in those days, most of the hair came from very poor women in India. And so she laughs at me and she says, Margie, they all come with lice. It's fine. We have to take it and get it washed, and you have to get it again. They take it out and you're fine. She laughed and she says, I'm so happy this happened to you. And I'm like, why? Why are you happy that this happened to me? She says, because it was such an easy mitzvah for you. You've all your life, you've been saying, I'm never gonna do this. I'm never gonna do this. I can't do this. And then suddenly you just put it on and that's the end of it. I was not comfortable with you being so comfortable. I'm happy that it was a little uncomfortable because now it is a true mitzvah. So this is the shaitel story. And ever since, I've been wearing a shaitel since 2005, 2006. And this is, I took it upon myself. It was Elul. It was Rosh Chodesh Elul, I remember. This was my teshuvah that year. And what I can say is that only bracha has come out of it, really. From everything we've done, all this growth has brought us to be beautiful, happy people. What can I say? I don't mean physically beautiful, but beautiful in the sense that we try to live as a reflection of Hashem. We try to be true to who we are. And in mind, in thought, and in action, in speech, we try very hard to live up to the Torah. And Hashem made us to be grand. He didn't make us to be mediocre people. But to be grand people, we need to connect to him, and we need to really follow what he gave us to follow, because we come here and life can become so confusing, so difficult, so scary that people can get sidetracked and go the other way. But he gave us a Torah, everything's there, and he tells us how to live and how to live this life, how to manage it. And when you're able to tap into the truth and you live with the truth, then you have a truthful life. And you're courageous, and you live at peace, and you live happy, and you live connected, and you live with no issues in your life. Like, there's issueless life. I don't mean things don't happen. Things happen. And my husband is a businessman, and he has to deal with business, and things happen, and you have encounters with people. You live in the world. It's not like you're out of it. But at least when you have your Torah, you know how to deal with it. And we learn from this, we learn from this how Yosef HaTzadik, in this parasha, we see that he was different from his brothers, because the brothers lived in a cocoon of a life. They didn't have to engage with the world. But Hashem wants us to engage with the world. He wants us to be part of the world. And to be able to live like Yosef, we need to know what we are expected to do. So Haya's asking me to say how I became a Rebbetzin, or my husband a rabbi.
Both. And also, we always share Rebbe stories. And
the Rebbe story.
I asked you before the class if you ever met the Rebbe, and you told me you did. So I want you to share with everyone about it, because it's just so beautiful, your encounter that you had. And we're very excited. I'm very excited and very inspired by your story. And now there's another war in the world. So we're going to talk about after what we can do for this war. And maybe you can give us a message as well.
Okay. So when I was going to get married, the Sephardic rabbi of the community left. And Yoshua Rosenfeld helped the Sephardic community. He's not from the Sephardic community, but he brought a rabbi from Argentina that was a Sephardic shluchim of the Rebbe. to come and be the rabbi of the Sephardic community until they found their Sephardic rabbi. So this is the rabbi that married me. His name is Abraham Ben Shimol from Argentina. And I had the very big privilege that the day of my wedding, there was a very big conglomeration of Chabad rabbis in Colombia. I don't know why. And I had my blessings under the chuppah were by these rabbis. So I think everything has an effect. And when we got married, the rabbi Ben Shimol, he says, "Oh, are you stopping in New York on your way down from your honeymoon?" And we said, "Yes." And so he said, "Okay, wonderful. You could call me. I would love to take you to the Rebbe so you can get some a bracha and $1. We had no idea who the Rebbe was. I don't know why in Colombia he was never announced. Like there was a picture of him in the Lubavitch house, but nobody asked. It wasn't a big thing. And so we called him when we arrived to New York. He says, "Wonderful. Come to the 770. He gave us the address. Come at a certain time this Sunday." And I asked my husband, "Okay." And he said, and I said, "Who is the Rebbe?" He says, "It's a big rabbi, Margie. It's a big rabbi. We're gonna take him out to lunch, and we're gonna give him a donation." This is what he thought. Like, we're gonna take the Rebbe out to lunch, and we're gonna give him a donation. When we get there, there's lines and lines and lines of people. We have no idea where we are. Thank God I had a little bit of a seichel, and I wore a long skirt with a covered shirt. And we came there, and he was in the line of the men, and I was in the line of the women. It was very like 1, 2, 3. And when I came to the Rebbe, I can still see his eyes looking inside of me. It was like the most surreal experience. Like, imagine, I'm an 18-year-old girl with zero sensitivity to spirituality, but I felt it. And he's looking at me, and he has this big, big smile in his face. And he gave me a bracha, which I have no idea what he said because I think it was in Yiddish. And he gave me $1. And someone told me, "Don't give the $1 away. Everybody's going to ask for them when you go out. You give another $1. So I still have my $1. And I still have that eyes in my eyes. And I really think that the Rebbe at that moment saw my potential. He saw what my neshama was made of. And he smiled. And that really, in many moments of my life, has kept me strong and with strength. I think Haya asked me something else.
Yeah, how did your family take it that you became religious, like you and your husband, like both families? Like, were they on board? Were they happy?
Well, my mother and my father were very understanding. My father was a person that had this idea that you live and you let live. And if people are righteous and they live a righteous life, he's not bothered. And so my father and my mother were very supportive all their lives. My other side, my in-laws, for them, it was a tragedy. They lost a son, they lost a family. It was like another son died. It was very, very hard. Many, many years of my father-in-law especially being very upset at his son to the point that sometimes he wouldn't talk to him. And it was very tough. Many years later, now we're talking 20-something years later, my father-in-law, my husband goes to Colombia once a month. He goes, sees his father. My mother-in-law is not here anymore. And he works with him, he helps him. And a few months ago, he said to him, "If I would have known what you knew, I would have become religious too."
Wow.
Because he sees the difference. He sees the difference of his grandchildren that live a religious life. Like, there's no comparison. And he sees
Also, we're talking about it. If it's okay that I'm interrupting, we were talking about this earlier, and like, people think that just because they become religious, they have to change who they are. It enhances who you are. And I asked you before, Margie, what's your hobbies? Like, did you have to drop anything? So if you could let us know.
Okay, the only thing I had to drop that I love is dancing on top of tables. Like, I have a Latina soul, you know, so I go through the airport in Colombia and Carlos Vives is singing and I'm like trying to hold myself not to dance in front of everybody. And that's something that for me, like the music and the dancing. So yes, when I'm in a Latino wedding of my friends and it's not like a Mexica wedding and I'm holding to the chair and I'm like, have to control myself not to start jumping on top of the table. But otherwise, my life is a normal, regular life. I do my exercise. I love exercising. I love to paint. I paint. I told Haya I could give you a tour of some of my paintings.
Well, I actually asked you if you could give us a tour of your paintings.
Yes, I'll take you
Just
around.
because, yeah,
There's many. I have many, but I'm gonna just show you what I have around here. But
I thought it was fascinating.
But basically, no, life is the same life. It's a happy life. Let me turn on the lights because it's a little bit dark.
And your daughters, are they happy with their lives? Like, are they happy with their transformation, like of being religious?
Oh, they're the happiest people. My kids, like the oldest one, I convinced her to go to seminary in Israel when she came out of school. And when she came back, she decided that she wanted to have a boy that wore a kippah, that prayed, that learned. And they have built a beautiful home. They live in Panama, and they're like pillars of the community. They do an incredible work there. I have my other daughter married a boy from New York, and also very, very involved in the community, very happy. And yeah, they live it, they love it. They love the life. But I say one thing, when you're growing in Torah, you have to make it happy. Your home has to be a happy place. The parents have to be super happy when they're keeping the mitzvot. Like Shabbat has to be wow. Giving tzedakah has to be wow. For example, we used to go to dinners that were raising money for certain situations. I always took my kids with me. It's important to show them that you're giving, how you're giving, who you're giving, and that they're involved in this process. We always gave Torah classes in our home. We brought speakers. We brought the most interesting speakers, like unbelievable speakers, and they were always part of the growth. They grew with us, and it was something that was very, very, like, it was exciting for them. We built a community. When we came here, we couldn't find a community we liked, where we felt at home. Everything was like a synagogue, but no community, no family feeling. And where we lived, we built a community that was all people that came from different places, France and Brazil, and we had Russians, and we had people from everywhere in the world, and that they were lonely here. They had no family, and we created a family. Until today, I don't live there anymore, but it flourished. And it started knocking on doors, asking for men to come and fill the minyan for Shabbat. It was a Shabbat shul. And suddenly you have hundreds of people keeping Shabbat because it was fun to go to shul. It was nice. People were happy doing it. But yeah, to live a Torah life cannot be like you're walking with a bag of rocks in your back. You have to feel you're carrying diamonds. It's a privilege.
So much to learn from that. And also people that grew up religious, like we have to remember that it's really important to make it happy.
Has to be.
Because it's a gift that we have, and we have to do it.
It has to be, Haya. There's no other way. Because when Torah life is a burden, then you're not serving God. It's better you don't do anything. It's better because, yeah, Hashem has to be, Hashem, I think it's Yossi Jacobson or Simon Jacobson, they say it many times, like, when you serve God, you have to feel like $1,000,000. You have to feel like so happy to be able to do it. And not that it's like you're carrying rocks on your back. because
How
then,
did your friends take it that you became religious from Colombia?
look, I had all types of reactions. I have friends that just walked away, and I'm like, they keep away from me. And I have friends that are still there with me, and maybe they're not religious still, but they respect and they admire and they love being with me.
Right.
And
Relationships don't have to change just because you necessarily make a choice.
I
Um,
think people, I think people, I think people get scared because it's a reflection of what they should be doing and they're not. It's not so much about who I became, it's more about who they haven't become. It's a reminder. So they feel uncomfortable with me. And I understand. It's not an easy pill to swallow, you know?
right. But I
And
think today everyone's trying to get back on the wagon. It was a very big opening, October 7th, and everyone's screaming their Jewishness, wearing their stars. You know, it's the neshama's coming out, you know, the Jewish neshama.
100%. I've heard stories, unbelievable stories of people that are coming back. It's
In 1 second, and you know, when we have to remember right now, all the hostages, they can't light menorah, and they can't light Shabbat candles, and they can't go to mikvah, and they can't do mitzvos, and they can't keep Shabbos. They don't have that right now, but we have that right, and we must do it for them.
yeah.
Like we must do it for them because they can't do it. They don't have the choice. We have the choice, and we should choose to do it for them and to bring the light, and hopefully that will bring them home.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, you should do for Hashem.
Of course, for Hashem, but it's an incentive to do.
You have to, you know what, Haya, I've been teaching a lot about love of God and how to come to love God, because in my own personal journey, which has been searching God in my life, in my I think if you don't have a relationship with God, it's okay, maybe you do for a little while, but then, okay, the war passed and everything passes, you know? It is an opportunity to build a relationship with God. It's like right now, where do you feel God? Like this doctor asked me, where do you feel the God? Ask yourself, do I feel God? Where is he where is he in my life? And I think that's where you start.
That's very powerful.
And then go and look for him. Go and look for him. Search him. Look for him. Thank God today you have so many classes, books, translations, YouTubes. There's tons of information of how to learn to look for God and search for God. A very good book is called Derech Hashem by Haim Lusato. You have all the Tanya, is unbelievable, of how to connect to Hashem and yourself and to others. You have also, I love The Gate of Trust, Rabbi Bahya Ibn Pakuda, Shar HaBitachon. There's also the book of the Rabbi Soloveitchik, the Beis Halevi on Bitachon. You know, it's a time to look for God. This is a time to look for God.
And today it's much easier than it was in your times. In your times, there
In
was no.
in my time, there was nothing. There was nothing. In Colombia, there was.
I mean, the Rebbe sent out shluchim around the world, but it wasn't accessible like it is today. Like you had to know.
And the books were not translated, like the Tanya.
Right.
When my husband first, someone brought him a Tanya, it was in Hebrew. He couldn't learn it. And then when he got the translation, it wasn't lessons on Tanya, so he was like clueless about what he was learning.
Right. If you don't have the right teacher, or Tanya can be like literally different.
You don't get it, no.
You don't get it. And that's how I looked at it when I was a little girl. And today I'm so thankful because I feel it's fascinating.
It's fascinating. It's
And
fascinating.
everyone, and it's not just for me and you. Everyone can, it's for everyone.
Yeah.
So anyone watching this, we have viewers around the whole world. I don't even know who tunes in anymore, but tune into Tanya.
Tanya.
I love learning with Rabbi Gordon.
Yeah, he's great. He's great, great teacher in Chabad.org. You have all his, in Los Angeles, there's also a very good teacher. There's many. Even your Chabad Rebbe of your neighborhood can teach you Tanya.
True.
Look,
So many people. Let's look at your art and you'll tell us a
so
little bit.
this one I painted when my husband was becoming observant. So that's him. Every time you see a little guy, that's him. And he's rowing and the Torahs are next to him and like the water's changing from very, very tumultuous to you know, he achieved the menucha, and then you have the eye of God looking down.
Wow.
And this one I painted when the disengagement and when they were gonna give Jerusalem. So I was beyond myself. So you see Jerusalem in a bucket and it's like the houses are crying. And then there's my husband again in the kotel praying, that little guy there. And eventually, thank God, it wasn't done. But it's all like a Broadway show, you see, with the curtains, and because life is a show. Like it's really we perceive one reality, but at the end it's another one, right? And Hashem wants us to connect. And this one I painted many years ago, and it's called Time is in Your Hands. And so you see the person holding the hourglass, and the Beit HaMikdash is in there. And if you can see, there's like hidden hearts in different places. And how Ahavat Israel is what's going to bring Mashiach, the love between Jews. And this one, I love Israel. And I painted this a long time ago also, and it's like the Star of David, which represents the what goes. We bring what we give, right? So whatever you do in this world, that's what you're getting, and we're receiving the brachas. And here is one. If you see, it's a mountain, and it's watching the waterfall. So if you look at the mountain, it has like the Black Mountain has like a profile. It's actually Moshe Rabbeinu, and he's watching the land of Israel, which is flowing with water and the Torah, and he's looking and he can't go. So these are a few. I have many. I've been painting my whole life. So
wow, you have a gallery?
No, I don't have a gallery, and my husband refuses to sell. So I have everywhere. So yeah.
Beautiful. I just want to tell everyone how I got to know Margie. A friend of mine posted that she gives classes, and I'm like, how do I get in on this? I would love to join her group. And I joined it, and it took me a while to get onto her classes, but I whenever there's time, or I'll listen to recordings, but on Monday nights she gives a Zoom class with all different insights in Torah, and it's incredible. It's from the heart, and she has so much knowledge of Torah. And I really envy people that become Baal Tshuva. I mean, we all could get there, but someone that didn't know and then finds God because they're on a much higher level than someone that had it their whole life, because they learn it from scratch and they're doing it because they really truly want to do it, and they do it from love and light. And there's so much to learn from a Balei Teshuvah, and we could all become that. She also has a website called livealittle.brighter.com.
Live a little higher.
Sorry, livealittlehigher.com. I was thinking brighter because of
it's also in podcast.
Yeah. And you could reach out to me if you want to get connected to her classes. But Margie, I'm so thankful that we connected. I'm so thankful you shared your story, because I myself learned so much, and we can hear so much more about your story. And I'm sure there's so much more. I know we have a little time limit today, but you really made me think a lot of how to add more light into my life, and how to find Hashem more into my body, where I should find him. And even though we think we have him, but there's so much more we can see. And I loved your art so much, and I love how you bring nature into it. I love nature so much. So my art, I'm an artist with capturing Hashem's beauty. That's my way of connecting to Hashem every day on my walks. But wherever you go, there's Hashem's beauty. and we have to be thankful for it. And everyone has gifts. And when you use your gifts, that's when Hashem's the happiest, because he gave you a gift of creating beautiful art pieces and being an artist. And it's literally, we were talking about it before, it's a gift from Hashem. It's literally a gift. You were given a gift, and you can either like say, oh, I can do this, but I have no time. But, you know, and it's incredible how your husband values your gift so much that he won't let you share the gift. But what's cool about your gift is you can keep creating and keep making, and I'm sure you make a lot of gifts for people. So thank you for being a gift on our class today, and I'm sure you're going to inspire many. And we're going to bring more light into the world for Hashem. And for doing that for Hashem, we're going to do that for the hostages. And our main prayer today is that Mashiach should come, because not just the hostages will be free, we will be free of this gullus, darkness. We're living in darkness now, but it's so easy to be the light. We just turn it on. And yeah, I hope everyone shines their light and shines it bright.
And remember, it's one step at a time.
Exactly. It's one step at a time. And looking forward to sharing more in the future.
I read something beautiful in the Sefer HaChinuch. It's an incredible book to learn about mitzvot. It says that when you're going up when you're doing mitzvot, you're going up a ladder. And so when you put your foot up, right, in the ladder, first the other one's down. You're putting one up. And then you do that mitzvah. Once you did it, then the other one goes up. And then you put the other one up again, and you do another mitzvah, and then the other one comes up. So it's like you have to really absorb what you're doing, you know, assimilate it and process it. It's not just like, okay, I'm going to do a mitzvah, that's it. No, you have to process it. It's a change of life. And you have to really shed that old self and really connect to the new, or to the real, let's call it, because it's not new, it's who you really are. And it takes time, and it takes one step, and then you bring, when you're comfortable here, just bring the other one up. And when you're comfortable, then you go one step up and take it like that. I'm sure you'll come a long way.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. And we'll see you guys next week. I just want to say a quick thank you to Hashem and the Rebbe for giving me the opportunity to do this class weekly. Our ambassadors of the class, if you'd like to become an ambassador, you could reach out. An ambassador shares the class, and you get the merits of sharing the classes. I also want to say thank you to my dear husband for helping with all the tech and helping me transfer it on a YouTube channel. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, and share it with your friends and loved ones. And we'd love to hear feedback. Feedback is always appreciated. Anyways, God bless you. And thank you, Margie, again.
Bye. Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah.
Bye.